right. Welcome, everyone. I am going to go ahead and get things started while we wait for a few more people to join. Welcome to the April edition of Jobs to Be Done Untangled. We are here today to talk about the landscape of innovation management. I am your host, Elaine Matthias, one of the co-founders of the Jobs to Be Done Toolkit. My business partner Jim is traveling this week, so he's unable to join us, unfortunately, but we are both excited to welcome everyone. And a couple of quick announcements from our end. We always like to just plug a couple of our favorite tools. The Foundations of Jobs to Be Done, our like 101 video training course. Our popular workshop is coming up the first couple weeks of May. He's unable to join us, unfortunately, but we are both excited to welcome everyone. And a couple of quick announcements from our end. We always like to just plug a couple of our favorite tools. The Foundations of Jobs to Be Done, our like 101 video training course. Our popular workshop is coming up the first couple weeks of May. It's really conveniently timed, 2 hours across 3 days on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and we'll walk you through the entire Jobs to Be Done process. Jim is also available for coaching if you want somebody to come in and talk to your team, maybe do an audit of some of the work that you're doing. He's available by the hour there. And lastly, our next Untangled event is on the last Tuesday of May in 2026. So I will drop the link in the chat for people that want to register at the end of today. And I'm excited to welcome our special guests today, Leo Varela Cid and Carlos Mendes from Innovation Cast. And they are going to share with us a case study about some research that they did into the jobs that innovation management professionals have in their work. And Leo and Carlos, welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I think this is a very it was actually very cool to see. It's really Carlos's merit, the presentation that you're going to see. So I get to do the fun part of being here for the discussion and everything. But kudos to Carlos for starting this project and putting it together. Really cool stuff. And thank you so much.
We've been working with the Jobs to Be Done Toolkit with Elaine, Jim, and other people for a while. And what we're going to do today is to show you basically the process that we went through. Some of the results that we have so far, it's still a work in progress. We work on innovation management. We've been doing this like for 16 years or so. So we help companies organize innovation systems. But today, basically what we're going to do is to go through 5 steps, give you some context and explain the problem we've been through. Why did we choose Jobs to Be Done? Particularly, why did we choose this flavor of Jobs to Be Done? What did we do? So basically how it worked, some key insights, and tell you about what's next for us. Okay. If you have any questions, if there's anything that you want to cast, feel free to jump in and ask it. I will start with an insight, which I think it was very important for this project, which is nowadays, it's really hard to go to people and ask them for time and to participate in interviews or surveys. So one of the key things that we did was we repositioned the survey that we did as an instrument of personal reflection, as an opportunity for people to think about their practice and basically think about what to do next. And that's what we try to do in the presentation today, is think through what we've done so far and present also what we're going to do next regarding to this initiative. So to give you some context, innovation makes or breaks
Carlos.
any business. An opportunity to think about what we've done so far and what we want to do next with this initiative. And I was going to present the context. So I already told us that we work on innovation management. You all know that innovation makes or breaks any business. This is not new. And what also not new is that most companies struggle to innovate. So it's still something very hard. There's no silver bullets that can solve us, but when we look at the statistics, they're really bad. It's most innovation programs stall. This is what we explain to our prospects. And when we look at the studies, they say that majority of companies is not innovation ready. The majority of them doesn't have innovation capabilities. And management is not happy with the results. So the performance is not what they were expecting for when they launched this program. So what we do at Innovation Cast is like to deliver technology, but also hands-on guidance to make innovation work. And I know that this is very ambitious, but our promise to our customers is not to sell them like just a new tool or to do some consulting and provide a new framework that they can use. So we work alongside them to make sure that in about a year, they have a very proficient innovation system, something that is delivering value for the company. And we do it going through several steps. So the outcome of this is basically helping them fulfill the mission of innovation management, taking care of things like the strategy, prioritizing ideas, proving customer fit, but also the outcomes. It's like making sure that all the work they do, it will serve what their companies are looking for and will translate into impact for them. Okay. So why did we use the Jobs to be Done toolkit, and particularly this version? When we look at our customer portfolio, one thing that our customers have in common, it's ambition. Obviously, they all want to innovate. They all have an innovation structure to do. They're quite invested in making it happen. But one thing that makes things really hard for innovation management is that innovation means different things for different companies. And just to give you a few examples, Bayersdorf, they are the owners of brands like La Prairie, Nivea, Tesa, whatever. They do internal innovation, of course, but they also do a lot of innovation procurement. They work with partners online to find new raw materials for their products. Florida Department of Transportation is a government institution. So basically, they manage innovation across several districts and they try to find ideas that can literally save lives. So it's not like a commercial engagement. Brisa is a company in Portugal, infrastructure, managing highways, things like that. They do solution scouting with promising startups. Easter Yale, it's a global brand. They sell heavy machines and they're doing innovation from the shop floor at the factories. All employees can report anything that they have regarding to safety, to tooling, how to improve the process that they're working. They can report it. Gowling, it's a law firm in the UK, and basically their big challenge is like AI adoption. Schiphol, some of you know them for sure. Airport management, they're doing portfolio management. Enoch, they work in oil, it's mostly employee innovation. And Riyadh Bank is finance, is product innovation. So the thing is that innovation is very different. When these different companies say innovation and what they're trying to innovate, what they're trying to achieve is not the same thing. So for us, and these are some of the innovation managers we work with, they're like heroes. And they're heroes mostly because innovation work is really hard. And innovation management, it's still something in its infancy. It's like, unlike marketing or sales or engineering, we have practices like for decades. In innovation management, it's a new profession. People are still trying to figure out what they're going to do. And the challenge for us and why we chose to do this work is we're doing really well. We're growing like over 50% per year, but we want to accelerate more. And the question is, okay, so we need to go outside our bubble. We need to find out mostly about the unserved market, which is the vast majority of the innovation market. What are the professionals struggling with and how can we help? That's the big question that made us start this work. We use 3 different frameworks to help us devise a new strategy: playing to win, history and mapping. And today I'm going to present about what we've done with the Jobs to be Done toolkit. Okay? So we're acquainted with the Jobs to be Done methodology. We read the books, we followed Jim's work. One thing that was like a big trigger to move forward was reading the Stepstone case study. If you haven't read it so far, highly recommend it, because for us was like, oh, no, this can also work for our company. And another important point was like, we're looking for something that could be used beyond new product development. So for us, engaging with Jobs to be Done was not just, oh, what should we build as like a new feature for what we have already? It's more, okay, we need to reconsider our offerings to our customers. Okay. And the way this works is quite simple. I got in a discovery call with Elaine and we explained, look, we want to find new opportunities to serve innovation professionals. On the one hand, we know that there are a lot of materials online, the books, the courses. We wanted something customized because we wanted to build this skill internally This is a skill that we want to have, a capability that we want to develop. We told her like we want to have different people there, not just management, but like product, marketing, customer success. So Elaine designed the proposal for us. Part of it was training that we did with her and Jim. And the other part, this is the good part of working with competent people, is that they introduce you to more competent people. So they introduced us to VanBridge, and VanBridge helped us doing the research part of the project, everything related to doing the interviews, the survey design, and the field work and analysis. We started with that. We started with our experience. We started with something new on innovation management, which is a standard that was designed to help build, assess, and improve innovation capabilities, and also with the input that we got from the jobs to be done training. And we got to a first initial job map. So basically, it's like this was like the origin of the work. These were like our assumptions. And from here, we start working with VanBridge to amplify this research. So VanBridge approach, customer-focused innovation, we departed from this work, but then it's okay, now we need to go and try to validate it. And they did a great job. They did, I don't know, 14, 15 interviews with innovation professionals. And from those interviews, they did what I think to be one of the hardest parts of jobs to be done, which is like doing the synthesis of those interviews and come up with some metrics for the discovery part. So yeah, it was like 15 interviews. They got to 160 metrics. And then there's a lot of work between us and them to select which metrics we wanted to use for quantitative validation and design the final survey. So was one interesting part was like, okay, how do we get to a survey that people will actually answer? So 162 job metrics down to about 40. Just to summarize what was really hard for us. So number one, we're not neutral observers. And it's like we don't want to outsource innovation. We want to control our basically innovation, but we really need partners, and we need partners like Jobs to be Done Toolkit and VanBridge because we're too close and we need help to reduce our biases and assumptions. So it was really important to observe that having external people that are not like into it like you, it's really helpful. Otherwise, it will be very difficult to go from 160 to 40 metrics. Doing the cuts on the metrics was like really hard because obviously we want to know as much as possible. But on the other hand, it's if we get to a survey that is unusable, no one will reply. And the last one, this is also a key learning, is like recruiting is also a design problem. Nowadays, it's very easy to go and find people on LinkedIn, but it's like everyone is busy. So it's not easy to get people to reply. I think one of the key things that we did that was very successful was like, as I was saying in the beginning, to reposition the communication of this. Don't think about this as a survey where you're just giving something to someone else. This is something that can help you. And we did two things. Number one was like to communicate this and say, look, when you're replying to this survey, you're reflecting about your professional experience. And this is the most important part, we will give you immediate feedback. Okay. So actually, I'm going to show you this. Let's see if the link opens. What we did was like we built a tool where when people reply to the survey, they are redirected to our website and they got immediate feedback. They got immediate feedback based on what they did. So they got a personalized job matrix with their priority areas, the things they're very strong, maybe things where they possibly over-investing, and things that they can monitor, but maybe they're low importance and low satisfaction for now. So they don't should care too much. We pinpointed what were the key opportunities for improvement in their innovation practices, and then we gave them like all the data of the survey. The data is there, they can take it. And one thing that we also told them was like, okay, once we get this ready, you'll also be able basically to benchmark against other peers. I think this was something that worked really well. I want to tell you a little bit about the participants, understanding who the respondents were. Obviously, this was very targeted. We don't want random people to reply to this. And a few interesting points. Number one is like innovation managers, directors, whatever was the role that they told, they do too many things. 7 of the 8 named activities, they are performed by over 50% of the respondents. So they wear a lot of hats. They have to identify market opportunities, run experiments, get customer insight, manage the portfolio, manage the pipeline, too many things. Another interesting thing for us that have been working on this for a while is like we're starting to see people with some experience on innovation management. Like a few years ago, usually the prospects will be someone that would be doing this like for the first time. They were just getting started. But nowadays, we're starting to see people that we have been working on this for 3 to 5 or even over 5 years, which is the most common answer in the case. So it was nice to see this involvement. And obviously, our target is like large enterprises. We organize innovation for when you need to do it at scale. So the respondents are like enterprise heavy, over 1,000 employee companies. We tried to have basically different industries. So when we did the targeting, that was on purpose. We also did our best to only invite a small set of our customers. We didn't want the study to have replies, like a large amount of replies just from our customers. Otherwise, it will be difficult to understand what are we missing. And that was the goal. It's Western skewed, mostly Europe, United States. I would love to get more info about Asia, about South America. We're going to try to do something to get more information about that. I cannot see you. I don't know what's happening with Zoom today, but I don't see your faces. I see that there are a few questions in the chat. Should we have a quick stop and address them? If someone can give me some feedback.
Yeah, there's some chat happening around the role of ISO 50, what is it, 5600-01 in the history of innovation management there. For those folks that don't know what the ISO protocol is, can somebody maybe explain a little bit about us and how that kind of played a role in shaping some of this?
So in our case, it's like we're members of the ISO committee who basically developed the first version of the standard. So for, I don't know, 2 or 3 years so far, we've been working on the standard. And the standard doesn't tell you how to do things, but it's a good instrument because it gives you a map of the things you have to do to have a full-fledged innovation system, something that can produce results. So obviously part of the input was our experience, and between me and Leo, I don't know, we've worked with over 50 customers, 100 customers for sure. We had obviously the input from the ISO, which is like defines what companies need to do, and also the discoveries that we got from the workshops that we did with you and Jim during the training. Any other question, Elaine?
No, I think we're good, and I think at least not that I see, but it was basically a remark. The established. It was also the remark of innovation is in its infancy, but it's not really that new, but it's still in its infancy. So it's just like why we were saying it like that.
Yeah, I think it's relative to other areas, like when you compare it to marketing, sales, accounting, or engineering.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what I would plot. But I do hope we get to you to show the insights, because I think this is really some of the juicy part of the jobs to be done. But we have a question from Michael. Go ahead, Michael.
Yeah, hi, thanks very much. My comments were I built maturity models well from back in the last century. And I did one for marketing, and when I joined an innovation agency focused on healthcare, I built the maturity model in about 2009. Until 56,000 came along eventually, that was that whole space in terms of understanding where innovation was as a function, how it worked. I think this is absolutely fascinating. My focus is really lab to market. So my world is tech transfer organizations, innovation accelerators, programs, incubators, and all of those kind of things where you have innovation professionals who've been in the game for a very long time. I accept that innovation as a profession in the corporate world is probably less developed. However, there have been enterprise innovation management solutions like Sophian, etc., that have been out there for 20 years, etc. So I'm not really feeling the novelty around the function. in the way that you're saying. Marketing has been evolving very quickly, sales has been evolving very quickly, particularly with new technologies. Let's say the definition of innovation is a function, its scope, and what it covers, and how you do it, and how you improve its maturity. I don't think this conversation started last week or last year. It's been going for a very long time. However, I think the way that you've fundamentally identified, used jobs to be done, applied it to innovation as a profession, absolutely fascinating. And thank you very much for your work. I look forward to the insights.
No, thank you, Michael.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I can't see you. This is really awkward, so I'm talking to a box. But I understand your point, and I think it's about 20 years ago, innovation was mostly done by marketing, top management, or R&D, right? Or sometimes some professionals in business development or specific functions. The big change is nowadays, I guess, that organizations are saying that innovation is not something that you do when you're not doing something else. Innovation is part of your job. And they want to get their people, all their people. That's the most common use case for our customers. They want to get all their employees to be able to have a channel to say, hey, I have an idea. Why don't we do this? Okay. The other part is we need to go outside our organization. We need to find startups. We need to find R&D partners. We cannot innovate on our own anymore. And I think the big change, and we talk about the profession of being an innovation manager, usually innovation managers are trying to create this capability for the company. So innovation, not like a small function that has 5, 10, 50, or 100 people, depending on the team size, the company size, but it's 20,000 people can have an idea and find a way to move it forward. But I think that when I share my data, the point will be clear. This is a diagram that we did using a visualization from VanBridge. And by the way, this is still work in progress. This gives you like the distance between important and satisfaction in different areas. And this is more or less expected because we're just humans. Importance is usually bigger than the satisfaction itself. There are some big gaps. Those may be relevant opportunities for us. That's the end goal of our research, is like to find where people, things that they say this is really important and it's not working. Those are a few opportunities. What I did was like we selected a few elements from the study to present and also to get your impression. So the number one, and for me this was very puzzling, was that 68% of participants, they say that their organizations perform idea validation and testing. So they have something in place to validate ideas. But the biggest unmet job for innovation was like having confidence in that their project was addressing a customer need, that it had the problem solution fit. Okay. So I told you we got 162 metrics. We got down to 40. Those were the ones that we shared and they were part of the survey. And there was a tie in the big opportunities. This is the first one. Okay. And for me, it was surprising because of that, because people are working on trying to build experiments, testing and validation. 68% say this is something that we're doing. When we look into the individual data, this is not like a niche for sure. We have the data and then we see that 0 respondents were oversatisfied with this job. So no one is happy about this. And it's very puzzling because over the last 20 years or so, we saw a lot of different methods, frameworks to work on customer centricity and make sure that the solutions we're designing will meet their needs. I don't know. Does anyone have a comment about this one?
Carlos, I think we have some comments and people asking to see a previous slide and things like that. So maybe go through the insights and then I'll go ahead. Chris has a question. Okay.
Sorry if I can find the unmute. It's just a comment. This rings true to me. Thank you for revealing it. And it relates to the question I posted before, but I'll update my question. You can have the best of ideas, but there are so many internal factors that can mess everything up, whether it's technological, whether it's ego, whether it's oh, it's not feasible, and etc. So getting just a strong, brilliant idea to market could be the absolute last thing possible, even if it should be the first thing.
No, I agree for sure.
We
Ideas are the seeds of innovation. It's like without ideas, nothing will happen. But I think that what this one says very clearly is we're not confident that we're building something that customers want. I think there's a huge opportunity here. Independently of the other things that you were saying, because sometimes it's no, this is not going to work because it's too expensive, like the technology is not there yet, or someone doesn't like the idea.
politics, internal frictions, politics, all of those things. So, Chris, just to be, we're surfacing some of the insights, but in the jobs that were identified and in some of the criteria in the survey, you'll find those that you've just mentioned. Yeah, so some of them include exactly not being able to put things forward because of politics, opinions, centralized decisions, things like that.
And I think that's where the survey results get really interesting because it allows you to cross-reference like some of these sentiments about confidence relative to organizational maturity. If you remember that table view, and I think hopefully we'll have a chance to go back. I have some follow-up questions about the survey results, but I think that's what lets you weigh those different constraints or levers that are available to you.
I think it's not surprising. From in the startup world, 90% fail, and 50% of those failures are because you're building products that nobody wants. And so to find the finding that we're not confident in assessing whether the solution we have in mind addresses a real problem is a discovery problem. It's being perhaps driven by technology or imagining a solution rather than validating the need before you build. And some of these things, a value proposition canvas, it looks pretty, but actually, is it based on evidence? Is it validated? Have you actually talked to customers? Have you done that in a useful way? And some of these techniques, they're just fabrication. They're just fiction. They're just made it up in the lab without the underlying rigor of a jobs to be done analysis plus the validation of those jobs in the way. You can see why these things are going to fail. And I'm completely unsurprised at that finding. If it were everybody was satisfied that we knew what customers wanted and our solutions responded to that need, that would be surprising.
I think the tension here is that 68% are really invested in doing something here. At least they're trying, but they're not able to do. And I think nowadays this is like even a bigger challenge, but we also have a lot more opportunities because sometimes it's to build a prototype, the validation cycle, the feedback cycles, all of that takes so many time, then things don't work. And nowadays, I think it's getting way easier to show people something closer to the end experience that they will have. And hopefully we will see a few more things here. But again, just presenting the results, we don't have any solutions so far. We have a few ideas on what we're going to do on our end to address this. The second one tied with this was like there's no clarity about the required innovation resources. And again, the tied with the other one, the biggest opportunity gap, respondents say that leadership needs to have a realistic idea of the resources to create meaningful innovations. Okay? So they say this is very important. People are not really satisfied with how things are going. Go ahead, Michael.
So, yeah, my comment to this is it points to me at a governance process. So the decision making about whether to commit resources is not done well. It's done, let's say, politically or emotionally or functionally or technically. But each decision to progress an initiative requires a 10x investment, an increase in investment. So going, let's say, between is this a problem worth solving to from problem solution fit towards problem solution market fit, that requires a 10x investment. So what happens is that projects drift and they don't actually get validated or decided upon as in a formalized way. So stage gate is an approach towards that, but it's not satisfactory. But in my opinion, let's say clear decision-making processes which are evidence-based are going to enable organizations to make better decisions as to whether to continue to commit resource to an initiative. And I think this we're being asked to transform with incremental resources is in fact a failure of management and a failure of governance and decision-making process.
Yeah, that sounds like it strikes a chord.
Yeah. And we're surfacing the ones that the survey surfaced. It's not necessarily, some of these things are validation of things that we also believe in, or problems that we also have identified. What we're
I'm not
showing
being
you,
critical and I'm agreeing. Sorry, I feel like
yeah,
it came across
for
in that
sure,
way.
for sure. But
No,
I
of
just
course.
want to say that this is coming from the data, not necessarily how we perceive it. That's basically all.
Yeah, but we perceive things, we agree with this. We see this, we have some solutions for some of these problems. It's very important to have data. And another thing, Michael, as you will see, a lot of things that you're mentioning will appear over the next slides. I will try to go a little bit faster, and then maybe we can have a discussion about the most important ones. But the key point is that all of these things are related. It's like this needs to work as a system. If only parts of what we need to bring an idea to life work, it will never happen. This is another one that we know for sure. We know what our customers do. We have customers that work on very far-fetched projects. Some customers are working on projects that will be on the market in 5 or 10 years. But the vast majority of innovation activities is focused on the core and is focused on driving operational excellence. So when we think about innovation, it's really hard because innovation means different things for different companies. And even for the company, it will mean different things at different moments of their story. It's like depending on how well they're doing, what's their growth ambition, things like that. But the dominant pattern is also a lot of investment on innovation, but it's like we're trying to defend the core. And there's this elusive concept of innovation, and there's this discussion that sometimes this is a problem that we see a lot. It's like sometimes people come up with proposals, but then the answer that they get is say, oh no, this is too close to what we're doing already. This is not real innovation. Think something else. But other times you also can say, why don't we? Or what if we? And then the answer is, this is too far. This will be like wasting money. This is not for us. And one very important thing, and this is something that appears even in the ISO, it's like you start with the intent. You start with your innovation strategy. You need to be clear about what are you trying to achieve. Otherwise, there's no way to understand whether or not you're getting the job done. And someone mentioned decisions, other people, lack of clarity is a huge problem. Okay, there's also a very big gap here. It's like people don't understand what happens. And this is not just on innovation management. Even if you go to R&D, it's more or less the same. It's like there are a lot of projects, they move the projects forward. Some projects sometimes are shut down and people don't understand why. And I'm not saying who has the reason, but for sure that we need better ways to coordinate like decisions and understand why things are moving forward or not between R&D and business and between innovation management and business. So this also was not new. It's confirmed by the data set. And again, related to those findings is like organizations are investing a lot, or at least some money and resources on making innovation happen, but they're funding innovation without having a clear way of stating whether or not it's working. So what respondents say is that measurement is important, but we're not happy with it. So again, this is also an area where I think that there's some work to be done. The ISO is trying to do some work here, but the ISO it will give you guidelines. It will not give you like a recipe that you can go and say, oh, number 1, 2, 3, okay, I know how to implement these things. So we're starting to have more information on what needs to be done, but it's still hard for innovation professionals to put these things basically in practice. And related to this, going back to our market, we work on innovation management. Part of what we do is giving technological support. You cannot organize innovation for 1,000, 5,000, 20,000 people without a custom solution. You cannot do it using Excel or spreadsheets or SharePoint websites or whatever, or Slack. But the thing is, the organizations, they're not investing a lot on tools that will help also address some of these problems. And when we think about marketing, we cannot go to marketing and say, hey, you need to manage marketing with Excel, or you need to manage accounting with Excel. But for innovation, the investment in basically infrastructure and right tools, it's not there yet. Okay, so that's a big question. Another question, and we see this in a lot of large organizations, mostly organizations that are distributed geographically, it's like the teams, and when I say innovation team, is the innovation management team, but even people inside the organization, they don't have a clue of what's happening inside the company. And this is something that we saw happening several times. It's like they start using a system, in this case, Innovation Cast. They start to say, okay, let's organize our portfolio. And suddenly they find that, oh, we're doing this in the Netherlands, actually also in Austria and Brazil. We have 3 different teams solving the same problem. Okay. So this is also something hard, which is there's no visibility. Sometimes they're just duplicating work. Duplicating work could be interesting if you're dealing with a very hard problem and you know whether or not it's going to work. So running things in parallel could be helpful to find a solution. But in the most cases, we're not talking about those types of problems, and there's a lot of duplication trying to address the same issues or frictions by people that don't even know that other people are doing the same. And I think this is the last one that we'll share. I don't like the term handover because it looks like someone did something and saying, now you go and sell it, now you go and take it to the market. I prefer the term like integration, but we follow the methodology and we respect the language of the professionals. This is a huge problem. This is the lowest satisfaction in the survey was like, oh, we got something that looks interesting, is promising, seems fit for the market, but then when they try to integrate it in the core business, it's delayed. The key justification, and there are others in the survey, but the key one was like it requires funding, which is not available. So this is one way where ideas are and projects are being stalled. Is like they do the work, they validate, they think it's going to work. Depending on the ambition, we never know for sure if an idea is going to work, but they get to a good point. They get to something that works. And when they try to go to the market, when they try to integrate this in the core business, it doesn't happen. And one of the reasons, there were several, but one of the reasons why they say it doesn't happen is because there's no funding there to make it happen.
This is a technology push. The imagination that we're building a product and all of a sudden the organization will adopt it is analogous to developing a product and then throwing it at the customer and then being surprised when they don't take it up. So the issue is effectively in developing a product or service, whether that's internal or external. Let's imagine it's internal because most companies are operating in Horizon 1, which is about extending their current business model and improving current processes. Well, the product or service is effectively a performance improvement. The customers for that are internal. So if you haven't engaged with those customers to understand the feasibility, and the feasibility involves dealing with the friction of implementing something which is different from what you're doing today, you haven't done your job. So being surprised that promising ideas may die when you finally unwrap them in front of a customer who you don't understand and have not validated whether they actually want or need your solution, and the need for the solution also includes the friction of implementation. So if you haven't addressed that in process, you haven't done a good job.
But that's not what the data is saying, Michael. What the data is saying is that you cannot integrate it into the core. I've seen this several times.
That's the same. No, it's not. It's not a question. It sounds like what you're saying is an innovation gets developed and it has no context, and it has no landing point, and the landing point is not worked through in the process of developing the product. And therefore, ownership, transfer, and integration, that's part of the process. It's not I develop something and then I hope that you might implement it. If you haven't worked on the implementation strategy and dealt with the friction of a change in the way of doing things, you haven't done your job. Full stop.
Yeah. So just to be clear, Michael, handover, or whatever you want to call it, is part of how the successful customers manage innovation and involve people from the beginning, and involve decision makers from the beginning, and we secure sponsorship, etc. But what we're saying is from the data, because remember, we didn't interview our customer. We didn't want to make it biased, right? Carlos said. So
Can I
the
just
majority.
take issue with the frame? Okay, can I take issue with the frame, the
Let,
integration of an idea
let
into the
Leo
core
finish, please.
businesses? Okay,
Michael,
sorry.
let him finish
Yeah,
his
go
thought.
ahead. Go ahead.
So what we're saying is this is a voiced pain. So what you're saying is basically how it's done properly. What we're sharing is if you ask, the majority of the times it's not done properly because it's difficult, and this is some of the problems that they found. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I understand that you're reporting, and I'm not taking issue with your opinion. I agree that, and I can see that your opinion might be different. The question that I'm asking is, the frame is the frame. So the integration of an idea into the core business is delayed as little as possible because it requires funding from a different budget. Okay, I think the framing of the question is not helpful. So what you're assuming is that in asking that question, your premise is that a product is developed, but you can't implement it because there's no money to implement it. So I'm taking issue with the question itself and the framing of that. That's all. I'm not taking issue with the practice, and I'm making a recommendation about how the good.
I
Okay,
understand.
good.
Yeah. No, I understand,
Yeah.
but this is not the way it's framed on the survey is, I think,
So that's all I'm. That's all I'm.
we
All
should
I'm
send
saying.
you we'll send you the link so you can
The
see,
question
because
is
this
in here. The question is very simple: is if they find important for the integration of an idea into the core business being delayed as little as possible because it requires funding from a different budget. And what they say is that, yes, this is important. It's 4.11.5. And they say, we're not happy. It's 2.84. It's like the lowest. And the only thing I can say from my personal experience is like a lot of good people, very clever, are trying to make this happen. And it's not easy. If these were easy, we were not having this discussion. We would be doing something else because the innovation problem was sorted out. I would not assume that they did all the work and that this is a technology push just didn't work because they didn't validate. Okay, what I've seen work in practice, and budget is the key word here. It's like the way companies were designed and the way companies are operated, they're not operated for discovery. They're basically designed for execution. So if it's May and you find something really cool that works really well, and sometimes you already have customers that want to start using it, sometimes you cannot go to the market because there's no budget to do it this year. That's the problem that we're discussing here. It's not like whether or not did they do the work or validate. It's just a budget thing. And this is very annoying. I've seen this so many times. It's like you get innovation teams that they do a good job. They find something that can make a difference and say, we'll have to wait until next year. And this doesn't work, I think, in 2026. Doesn't work because they want to have impact. It's very frustrating for anyone working on something that has a good potential, but then we'll just sit and wait for next year. That's the only thing. But
I think your point, sorry, I love this conversation. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to be rough. I'm not trying to rough
I
you up
know.
too much. I think your point actually was most companies are not built for discovery. They're built for execution.
Yeah.
And I think that is really the inside. And it feels to me that function, when you call it innovation management, and I think an innovation manager, that's a misnomer. It feels very small, much smaller than the job that you're actually talking about. But actually, it's a philosophy, it's a kind of conception, it's about an understanding of how an organization engages with its growth strategically and operationally and in the execution layer, which is how do we extend our business model, develop new products and services, and think about how our business could be disrupted, and how do we do that in a systematic way with maximum involvement of all of the people all of the time. And what is the infrastructure, the processes, the technologies, and the people that are required to make that engine work. It feels like innovation is a function rather than an engine. And I think that's the seminal difference between organizations that get it right and organizations that are reporting that silo-based thinking and that, let's say, budget scrutiny just doesn't work. Just doesn't work.
We have about 5 minutes left. Carlos, I want to make sure you have time to go through all of the slides that you have here.
Yes, we're done in terms of sharing the insights. We're going to share obviously the whole report and the whole data. This is still work in progress, as I told you. One thing that we're also going to do is we're going to make this available to innovation professionals. So this started as, okay, we need this survey to support the jobs to be done approach and the methodology. People already got feedback. They fill in the survey and then get feedback, but now they'll be able to go there and compare basically and benchmark against other industries, countries, whatever. So we're going to make this available, all the data, and all respondents can go there and do some benchmark. Our goal is to say, okay, this is the snapshot that we took in the last 2025, beginning of 2026, and we're going to leave it open. And basically the idea for us is to create somehow like an observatory and see how these things change through time. Okay. Are we still having the same pains? Did we get something right? Can we move to the next problem? This is one of that. And again, just last slide, you all know that this is just a map. What we have is a well-informed model. A lot of things that we see in the report basically are things that we've been seeing in our practice for several years in different ways. Other things are surprising. Again, this is not finished truth. So basically what's next for us is basically iterate, increase clarity and confidence. We're going to do some bets in terms of our offers to the market and how we help companies to get innovation system that works. And so the next steps will be like iterating on this information and see what holds up and what doesn't. Thank you.
Thank you, Carlos. That was amazing to see how some of the insights came together through the survey, having followed along on the entire journey. We have just a couple of minutes here, time for maybe one question. Is there anybody, is Dom still on? I know you had a couple of questions about the process and the how.
Thanks, Elaine. Yeah, I think Leo was answering that too. So it looks like you have a bunch of different tools, but not a set process that you work with teams. So you do validation in some form, jobs to be done being a key one, but you have some flexibility around how you do it rather than just design thinking is usually jobs to be done to figure out what we're solving, and then some kind of other process to test concepts and use some other approaches. I don't know if you had any more to add to that.
So Dominic, when I was replying to you, I was talking about our customers because there's a meta thing here, right? We Innovation Cast did jobs to be done for us, right? Asking about how innovation professionals, which are our key customer persona, look at innovation when facing those jobs, right? Our customers themselves have different methodologies to deal with innovation management, and they manage innovation in many different ways. And our product, so what Innovation Cast is, a digital platform where all of that takes place, and they all have different innovation processes. So if I were to show you the stages that different customers go through, I would say that even though there are some invariants and some things that many people adopt, they all have different processes because making innovation work is always different from company to company. But yeah, so design thinking, you mentioned design thinking is one of them that some of them use, not all. Not at all.
Yeah, and it sounds like you use a Jim callback Elaine for training where they want to learn more about jobs to be done, but then they may have other practices, be more Six Sigma or ISO focused or Malcolm Baldrige, all kinds of things, a history of quality function deployment.
Exactly.
And I do think one of the really neat things that I mentioned about the survey results is that it does allow you to look at your organization and the way that you're practicing innovation management across a rubric so that you get that compare and contrast and kind of understanding where different strengths and weaknesses might lie within the organization relative to other respondents.
Yeah, I think it was insightful for us as Carlos was sharing, and it was also we had some good rest. The people who went through it and saw that dashboard at the end with the personal feedback really saw value in it and become more interested in the aggregate data. So for us, it's important because it tells us, confirms some of the things that we believed in, surfaces other things that we now find more important to voice in our marketing and our strategy, as Carlos was saying. But also for the customers, they've received it well. Like I have several messages saying this was great. So it's not always because people don't like to fill in surveys, to be honest, but it went well.
Yeah, I thought the personal reflection approach was a really, really clever way to get engagement on that front. Encouraging people. We are at the hour, so I want to thank Leo and Carlos so much for today's presentation. This is the first time I've seen these insights, and I think it's very exciting to really see like some of the pain points that I know I face, that our clients face out in the wild, captured through this means. So I encourage everyone to give the survey a try. I also have an article that I'll share out about their process and experience. And if you want to connect with Carlos and Leo, if you're interested in learning more about Innovation Class, please reach out to them on LinkedIn. I will share an email with all of the resources from today's event in a couple of hours. And I want to just thank Leo and Carlos for all of their hard work, for their amazing application of jobs to be done. I hope you guys have been having fun with it all, and I can't wait to see the next evolution of everything. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. Now I can see.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.
Thank you.